Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
The B2B landscape has been impacted dramatically over the last 18 months or so. So what's changed? And how should businesses now approach purchasing from other businesses? From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Despite the significant distractions of the pandemic, there are still ways for B2Bs to expand their buyer base. Michael Haynes is an SME business growth specialist and principal consultant of Listen Innovate Grow. He's also the author of Listen Innovate Grow, a guidebook for Start-ups and SMEs to acquire and grow B2B customers. But as he explains to me, it's as much about working out who really has the ear of the decision maker as it is about discovering the pain points of the business you're trying to attract. So, to point us in the right direction, Michael offers 5 key insights to get B2Bs to buy. To start though, I ask Michael how B2B has changed since COVID-19 struck.
So in the last 18 months, really a lot of the changes started before the pandemic. And the main changes is that there are more people involved in the decision-making process. And particularly if you're a business selling to mid-markets, large corporates, it will not be uncommon for you to be dealing with 6 to 8 decision makers who will be from across the organization. So you may have representatives from IT, operations, risk, finance, all wanting to chime in on the decisions. The decision makers are also taking a lot longer and doing a lot of their own independent research before they want to talk to any vendor or supplier. And they're spending more time doing so because they're looking for that decision maker certainty and confidence, particularly when we're in this volatile and uncertain times. They're really taking their time and doing their homework, talking to colleagues, leveraging their industry, professional associations, subject matter experts or contacts to get certainty as to how to take their businesses forward.
Well, with all of that in mind, you have 5 insights into how B2B managers can actually change their approach to secure more customers. And the first one you say is know who really makes the decisions.
So that's very important that you understand who is the person that makes the decision to buy. So who has the authority and budget for the purchase decision for your particular product or solution. Now, one key call out I like to make is that do not always assume it's going to be a C-level person within the organization. Oftentimes, senior executives will delegate to subject matter experts within the organization for them to make those decisions. So don't make that assumption all the time.
Well, the second way you say is to understand who influences these decision makers, both internally and externally. How do you go about doing this?
Okay, so there's 2 that you need to understand. So you need to know the internal influencers. So who are those that provide insights, opinions? They're often evaluating vendors. They're often providing the shortlist. And we'll get into the ear of the decision maker to say who are the service providers to go to. That's the first one. The second one are external influencers. So your external influencers are who are the go-tos that your decision makers will rely upon when making decisions. So they may be looking at professional associations, industry publications. They may listen to certain podcasts. They may be going to certain events, be it online or in person, certain webinars. So it's very important that you identify both the internal and external influencers, as that is where the focus of your marketing efforts need to be. And you do so via research. So if it's with current clients, talking to your account teams, always talking to your customers where you have the opportunity to do so, but also doing online research such as leveraging LinkedIn, your company websites, your industry and professional associations as well. Their websites are often also a great repository for lots of insights into your companies and how they make buying decisions.
Now, you also say that buyers want AIR or AIR, not simply more content. What do you mean by AIR?
So what business decision makers are looking for more so ever in this environment is AIR, advice, insights, and recommendations. They want to know how to take their businesses forward. Over the past 18 months, there's been a lot of what I call content vomit. There's been a lot of bombarding of blogs, white papers, articles, and business decision makers are overwhelmed now. There's so much information all coming from very reliable sources, sometimes often contradictory. They want the roadmap. Make sense of all this information. What does it mean for my business? And what are those steps I need to take to move forward?
Well, the fourth insight is to understand the goals and pain points of the business you're approaching.
Yes. So it's very important that you really understand the goals, priorities, pain points, and challenges, not just at a customer organizational level, but for those involved in the purchase decision-making process. So it's not enough to understand if you're looking to, for example, trying to get into the Commonwealth Bank and know overarchingly what Commonwealth Bank is trying to achieve. But if you're an IT provider, what are those priorities of the IT decision makers? What are they looking for specifically? So you really can tailor your advice, insights, and recommendations and action plans specifically to those requirements.
And fifth are must-haves that some prospective buyers might require before even considering doing business with you. What are they?
It will depend upon the target organizations, but some examples are there could be requirements for certain kinds of licenses. You might need to have expertise in certain kinds of methodologies or technologies. There might be service level agreements. So if you're, let's say, an IT company again, what are your service level agreements in terms of if there are faults and restorations, what are the turnaround times for that? They may require a 24-hour turnaround time for restorations or a 4-hour response to queries. So you need to understand what are those expectations that you must bring to the table in order to be considered as a potential supplier or service partner.
And finally, Michael, you also have a tip on how to progress the sale and give the buyer a sense of what working together might look like. What is it?
So a key tip to help you really progress sales in the B2B context is really focusing on and providing some clarity as what happens after the sale. Again, in this time of volatility, uncertainty, decision makers, again, are looking for that decision maker confidence. They don't want any buyer remorse. So they really want to understand, okay, so we've made the purchase to use your IT services or your legal services. Tell us how you're going to work with us to meet our objectives, to work through our challenges, what's going to be happening, how are you going to be servicing and supporting us. Really setting up that roadmap up front and incorporating that as part of your sales discussions is really critical because that is often very much what is on top of decision makers' minds, and that's what they're thinking about as part of their purchase decision is what is happening after they've signed the contract.
That was SME Business Growth Specialist, Michael Haynes. And to make sure your B2B customer strategy is on track, Michael has a free B2B customer acquisition and retention checklist, which you can access via the link in the show notes of this episode. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more B Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.